My name is Oliver Meyers, and this is a presentation for my semester-long project, a game called The Burning Light. It is loosely based on a video game called Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's an open world concept filled with puzzles and filled with monsters. You have a main character named Zeke, and he is a boy that was in a world. He was just very common. He was just like a peasant, and he was working in a factory, and an accident happened, and it gave him some special powers that allowed him to go on his adventure. So the concept of the game is, like I said, it's a puzzle-based game which will help people learn. That was one thing I really loved about the Legend of Zelda series, is that it was filled with puzzles that made you really think and stretch your mind. And that's something I really want to incorporate into my game. I want puzzles that are so hard that you might even have to look them up how to figure them out. But those would be on some of the harder final levels, just because that was one thing I really felt was lacking in the new Breath of the Wild game, was the challenging puzzles, because they were all able pretty easy. There's like one or two that I couldn't figure out, but the rest were just pretty easy. That's something I really want to really focus on, is even in like the main boss fights, is having it again just another big puzzle that they had to figure out. My target audience is kind of around junior high to high school to further on. I want to have it very beautiful to play, but also fun. There's an artist that I really love, and I love his scenery and the way he does his art, the way he uses color and light in his drawings, and I want I attached some of those in my final project at the very bottom in the landscapes. I want to use that kind of style of art in the game, so it has a little more of a cartoonish feel. And like in the cities, I want to have it steampunk vibe, which is a Victorian, very greasy, very dirty feel to it, where the cities are very drab. They're very just browns and grays, and then once you get out into the world and the scenery as you're running around, because that's where you're going to spend most of your time, is out in the landscape and the scenery. I want that to be some of the most beautiful parts of the game, with vibrant colors and different plants and the way that we use light through it. I want that to be kind of the focus point of just the art and landscape. I want to have the game team-based. Not so much multiplayer, but having a team you assemble, where you can have 4 people traveling with you, and each has different special abilities. You have people that are fast, you have fighters, you have people that control fire, electricity, and water. Just so you have, there's different types, and you need them for each puzzle. Some you need a water, fire, and lightning type. Some you need someone who's fast and strong and has and then fire. Just so you have to have the right combination of people in order to complete the puzzle. So some of you might run into a puzzle as you're going through one of the towers or one of the dungeons, and you don't have the right combination, that you have to go back and change and get the right people to come back in order able to get maybe a secret room or something like that. So and then I also want a leveling system where you level up your certain characters so they become stronger for some of the fights with the enemies, because I feel like when you are leveling up your character, you actually start building a bond with that character, and you really enjoy it because you put in so much time and effort into making this one of your strong characters. Because that's what I feel in games when I level up. It's like, okay, I really care about this guy. I don't really want to switch him out, even though there might be a cooler, better guy later on. And then if you do get those guys, then you have to level them up, which allows you to play the game more. because you may have leveled up one of your guys to level 50 or level 100, whatever we set it at. Once you get a new guy, you have to do it again, so you're going to spend that much time and devotion into that next character. I was hoping to have about 40 characters, 40 to 50 depending on how many types of classes we do, and have like 4 or 5, maybe even 10 for each one, like 10 water, 10 fire, 10 electric, so on. And that way you can have more creative control over your team and what they look like and what you want your team to be. The platform I've been mostly focusing on is PC, because I'm a PC gamer, and it's easier to get games out on PC because you don't have to have people buy a disc. You could just do a simple download. Even though consoles are starting to move that way, I've seen it's a lot easier for people to get into the PC gaming world than it is a console, because a lot of the main companies have a control over the games that come out, where with PC games it's very free and open to everyone. If you go into Steam, there's thousands and thousands of free games, or even $10 games that people poured a lot of time into that are really fun, but no one knows about them. I think that would be a good test run to put it out on the PC's gaming. And then people can, if you get a really good feedback from that, and then we could probably maybe move on to console, which I feel like is more people buy, but it's a lot harder to get into that industry. I'm looking at my notes, what the next thing to talk about. My objective of the game is you start out with Zeke, and he gets his ability of telekinesis. I have the whole story written out in my presentation, but it's basically it's a steampunk world like I talked about, and the currency they use is this blue fluid. I had a name for it in my presentation. I can't remember what it is, but he accidentally falls into a vat of that, and usually people die, but he has his arm, it disintegrates in it and fuses with it, and then he's able to have special powers that way. And I felt like that was a really good way to introduce that world, because it's that dark, dreary place, and there's this little kid that he hates his job and he hates going to work, and then an accident happens and he gains this ability, and then you have to fight your way out through the guards. I felt that would be a really good tutorial of the controls. It's like, okay, this is how you move around, this is how you attack, this is how you use your special. It's because he's learning how to use his stuff, and so are you. And then once you get out of the city, you have to run away, and then you start running into people, and those people are the ones that you can start having join your team. So at the very beginning, in that open world, in the small area you start out with, that's where it'll be simple puzzles and stuff like that. And as you travel more out, you'll run into more people that some you might have to fight to get onto your team. Others you might have to do certain quests to them to make them happy so that so they can join your team. And maybe some of those ones you have to fight, they're a little bit stronger. And if you don't beat them, then they're gone and you can't get them on your team again. And once you beat the game, then you have a choice that you can keep some of your characters or keep some of your levels. And then you start the game over and you go again. And that way you're a little bit stronger next time, and then you can beat that game and you can get that guy, and then you can join part of your team. That's another way we can get people to keep playing the same game for a long time, because that's nothing worse than buying a game and playing it through and you're like, okay, I've done everything, there's nothing left to do. This gives people more and more opportunities to play through the game and get everything they want. My idea for the towers, they would be kind of like the dungeons, but there would be seven of them placed throughout the map, and as you go up through the towers, the challenge gets harder and harder, and you only need to go to like level 50 for the main storyline to get the thing you need to unlock everything. But then there would be like 20 towers above that where those are the bonus levels, the extra hard ones, things you need to be stronger levels for in order to beat. The main protagonist, the main bad guy, he is the ruler of the world. I really like the idea of having him mostly like half machine, and that's what a lot of the guards and enemies are that you run into are his experiments with the steampunk world, where it's all brass and mechanical, and steam and smoke is billowing out of these guys as they're running around and attacking. And having him part machine, as he's dying, he's been replacing his parts with machinery in order to keep living. And he has a giant machine that you have to fight at the end that's as big as a town that you have to fight, and as you walk your way up through his machine and fight him as he's fighting you, it's different puzzles that you've run into before, that so you can activate certain things and so you can blow up his machine and defeat him. Let's see. I didn't really think of level skill difficulty. It's just as the game goes on, it gets harder and harder. And that's what the different levels in the tower are. Those are the levels of difficulty. You can do it. We can think about after you beat the game, you can do like heroic mode or something like that, where every guy's a little bit harder, just because you're more used to the world and the way it is. Music, I wanted something very beautiful, just to go along with the scenery, something that, because you listen to the old Zelda music and a lot of other video game music, and it's something iconic, it's something beautiful that will always come to your mind, and I wanted that kind of music in my game, because I want this something that people look back and remember and enjoy playing, and music is one of the things that really connects with people. Again, that's another thing I felt like Breath of the Wild was lacking, was their music. It wasn't that great, it was just very simple, and it was kind of in the background. There wasn't a main focal point. Compared to Twilight Princess, where that music was very beautiful, it was loud, it stood out, it was very energetic, but in the Breath of the Wild it was just kind of a little sad. And so I kind of want to, I'm not thinking a lot about Breath of the Wild because it's loosely based on that, because I've enjoyed that game so much. I've played it for months and I still love playing it. And I want a game similar to that, but with its own little twerks and little quirks and tweaks to it. I think this game would be really good for just people growing up, because I've always loved puzzle games. I feel like it's really good at making you think out things and problem solve. Because I feel like being able to look at a problem and just figure out and solve it is one of the tools you can have, because that applies to so many different things. You can look at different problems in your life and figure out, okay, how do I solve this? People that don't have that skill, they're constantly wondering, okay, what do I do next? How do I get past this? Where people that are able to problem solve, they're able to look at it and go, okay, these are the next step I need to take to finish this. And if you could teach that to kids when they're younger through video games or through math problems or through just simple problems like that, they're able to be a lot better in life. I feel like that's why I was able to be able to solve so many problems in my life, is just because I actually have played video games like that, where that make you think, that make you try to understand how to get this figured out. And I really love those games, and I feel like it really helps people. What might not help the world is it is a violent game. There will be fighting, there will be hitting, there will be defeating the main bad guy, but I don't always feel like that's a bad thing. But sometimes you need to stand up for what is right, and if someone's going to attack your friends or you don't just sit there and let them attack you or take what you want. You need to stand and defend yourself. Again, that might be a bad thing, might be good. It depends on the person's point of view. I already talked about kind of how it helps society, and about game and advertising and marketing. A lot of it is getting support in the beginning in order to pay the people to make the game. If I did end up making this game at one point, it would take a really long time. It took about 300 people in 2 years to make Breath of the Wild, and so to make my game it might take that longer and longer. Just because I'm not experienced as Nintendo or anything like that, I'm just starting out, so it'd be something I would definitely have to spend a lot of time on. And marketing, if you're able to piggyback on the success of other games that are similar and piggyback on and say it's kind of like this, it's one of the most beautiful games, and the artwork, and getting local artists to support it, getting different artists to weigh in as you're creating it so it could get their worlds involved. I think you doing that would help more. That's kind of my game, The Burning Light. I put as much effort as I can. I know there's still a lot of details I needed to go through if I was able to get this game off the ground and running, but it's a good brief overview and concept of what the game is.